and I am so excited today to be joined by Tepring Piquado, who is the executive director. Actually, correction, she's a new executive director 6 months in of the National Science Policy Network. Tepring, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be talking to you today. Thank you.
Yeah, so what is the NSPN? Well, the NSPN, and that's the acronym, the National Science Policy Network, is a coalition of scientists that provide professional development, policy, and advocacy support to the broader field. But that doesn't do it justice. And so I'm so glad to have Tepring here with me to break down what the NSPN does before we get into deeper discussion. Tepring, if you're talking with someone who doesn't know anything about the NSPN, what would you be telling them?
First, I say NSPN is like ESPN, NSPN, so you can remember it just a little bit faster. So NSPN, National Science Policy Network, is really a community, broadly speaking, of people that are science policy enthusiasts, scientists themselves, technology, engineering, math, medicine, that are working together to play a role in the community on enhancing our policies. So we train early career people, mostly early career, to be trusted and sought after policy contributors.
So training sounds like is at the heart of what you do. Tell us more about that.
So we have 3 core programs. They're actually launching, 2 of our programs are launching tomorrow. So our core training programs are policy analysis, the policy skills that we use day in, day out as policy professionals, the policy writing courses, and the policy diplomacy courses, or diplomacy for scientists. And those 3 aspects of NSPN is really what drives our core programming, our core education and training for those early career folks. You don't have to be early in your career, but you can be early in your career on science policy. And so there's a role for people that are later in your career, faculty members in nonprofits and for-profits across our nation, to really get some hands-on experience and understanding about how we can apply our background knowledge to policymaking. And so those are our 3 courses.
And who is the target audience?
The target audience are those that are interested in using their science background, their scientific lens, to engage in policymaking. And it can be at an elected official level in our legislatures and in local or state or even federal, but it goes beyond that. So these are skills that you're going to learn on how to talk to different audiences who are in the influential role of making decisions that affect large scale groups. So communities, companies, educational systems, transportation systems, or even to our elected officials in our states or our federal government.
Yeah. So you've been at this job now for almost 6 months, right? Tell me, what have you've probably been catching up, rapidly learning about what this organization is doing, what it's trying to do. What has been the most surprising thing, at least in the last 6 months, that you have learned about the NSPN?
Right. So it has been an amazingly exciting time to transition from an organization that was largely run by early career graduate students. About 5 years ago, started this organization, really ambitious, really thoughtful on how do they train the next generation to contribute to policymaking. And so I had 2 years ago the pleasure of being interviewed by members and present about my experiences and my pathway as a policy professional, consultant, candidate for public office, started my own nonprofit, and now had the opportunity to lead NSPN. I think the most pleasing and surprising aspect is just how large our community really is. How many people are so serious about getting involved in the variety of ways where they can at the moment take action to help our policies.
Could you break it down in terms of the membership, some rough numbers maybe in terms of how many postdocs, faculty, graduate students, even undergrads maybe?
So yeah, we do have it across the spectrum. We even have a high schooler that I've been emailing back and forth that's so interested. We just for, privacy and consumer laws, we try to stay above 18 years old. Our demographics are, when we say early career, we predominantly mean those who are in graduate school for some type of STEM degree. So science, technology, engineering, or math or medicine degree. We have the majority of people that engage in our training programs are in that demographic, some postdocs. So we have about 1,600 people that are in that demographic. Our broad community that's growing every day is roughly about 5,000 people right now. And that spans from, early, like I said, high schooler, undergrad, grad, postdocs, as well as the rest of the ones that aren't 1,600 are in our professional groups. And those professionals are really there to bolster our community and ensure that the next generation is really taking the opportunities to learn from them and advance their careers.
Now, I want to take a little bit of a deep dive into the training portfolio that you guys are building, because it is quite extensive, and you've mentioned one of the key skill sets they are writing, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about your theory of change around the training program that you're designing? Because they're quite extensive, and for those of you that are watching this and are curious what they are, go to their website and look at what's upcoming, has happened before. So Tepring, tell us, what is that theory of change, and how are you using that to design these courses?
Right. That's really good. So basically our core principles and our core values is that we want people to be well trained, trusted, and sought after. And that for us means that we have to have a broad base of understanding of what writing products are out there, what you need to do to be an actual contributor to the science, to the policy making landscape. And so what we're doing is moving individuals with a background in their own education, their own science background, into an area where they're contributing meaningfully to policy. So that's sort of the bridge that NSPN fills the gap in. And we do that in a variety of ways. One, we teach individual writing, so blogging and op-eds, right? And so that comes from a perspective that we expect to be a scientific base, but not necessarily on anything outside of your own thoughts and advocacy. We move toward understanding the contributions of different types of individuals in the broader landscape. So we move on to testimony, support and opposition letters. We teach you how to develop those, how they'll be read, how they'll be used, how really the stakeholders in the audience to actually be a practitioner of that craft. It's different than the writing that we're used to in school. And that's a really important factor that our training programs take into consideration. And then the last one is that policy analysis. It means a broad thing, and it does mean different things to different stakeholders. So I think our theory of change also incorporates the fact that this is a global community, definitely a national community. And at the same time, we need to take into consideration and cooperate and collaborate with a broad group of people, not only our elected officials, but also our constituents and our people in our community and our hometown. So all of our programs are really thinking about, let's talk about power mapping. Let's talk about audience. Let's talk about stakeholders. Let's talk about coalition building. Even though we're doing the task of maybe writing or maybe doing a policy analysis, or maybe talking about a diplomatic issue, we really do center it on collaboration and cooperation.
Yeah, I can imagine that the skill set does overlap quite a bit with science communication also, right? And so I'm curious, when you think about impact, what is that key metric in your courses that you're looking for or hoping to see, and how are you tracking it?
Yes, good questions. We are developing a tracking system right now. We have that for our courses that are in a launch for the first time under my leadership. And so what are we tracking? the first and foremost, what we're tracking is, did you gain skills over the course of 6 to 8 weeks that you didn't have before? One, did you gain the confidence or the self-efficacy to go out and take action? And 3, did you go out and take action? Those actions don't have to be getting an actual job. They could be, did you contribute to your community? Did you go out and do a public testimony at your local city council room? Did you write in from your scientific background and contribute to providing a letter of support to a bill that just caught your interest? Did you call up your local nonprofit and say, hey, can I help you write a policy analysis? Because I think this issue on, housing, on water quality, on air quality is really impacting you. And let me use my background and knowledge to really help you advance your mission, right? So we're coming back to our constituents after a period of time, after they've done their learning, and saying, what have you taken action on? Because that's really important metrics to us. It's good to get the education, and we can read books and take webinars and take courses, but it's better if you actually go out and do something, right? Take action.
Yeah. So in fact, you're even going beyond the pre and post and saying, great, but what action have you taken, right? Beyond that. I imagine that takes resources to do.
It does take resources, and we're always looking for philanthropic contributors to partner with. And we actually are starting to build a consortium. So we have quite a few people in our ecosystem that are contributing to science policy, scientists contributing to policy. And we're looking for more. And what we're moving toward is this consortium of like-minded peer groups and peers to really fuel the next generation of policymakers. And it takes all of us. So if you are interested, we are available for collaboration.
Yeah, and in fact, the 2025 NSPN Annual Symposium, right, is taking place next year in Seattle, Washington. So for those of you, again, go on the website. Maybe you want to say a little bit about it.
Yes. So I started 5 weeks before our annual symposium. And this year we had partnered, in 2024, we partnered with UC Riverside. We had over 300 people come out across our nation. I would like to say internationally, because we also had Canadians there. And it was an amazing opportunity to have some education, to network and collaborate, but also be inspired to go on and take that action that I was talking about that is so important for not only us as individuals and our own careers, but the whole nation. So we need you to be participating in the science policy making. And our symposium is one of our signature events that brings people together to talk about those grand ideas and find collaborators and network and really grow our contributions. And so I encourage you to keep a lookout for registration. That should be coming up within the next couple of weeks, at least next couple of months, in Seattle, where we're going to be, I can tell you this, that the theme is going to be infrastructure in the modern era. And that is going to be broadly thinking, whether you're thinking about energy infrastructure, transportation, healthcare, housing, infrastructure, and think broadly.
Yeah. And then I think part of the bringing people together, right? Part of what NSPN does, and many other organizations as well, is together we're stronger, right? And when you realize you're not alone trying to do this work, especially for those, many of us, you and I also have gone through the STEM training, PhDs, right? Yes. Finding like-minded communities like NSPN, JSPG, all these places, right? I think it makes a huge difference. I wanted to go back to something you said earlier about philanthropic support to do this work.
Yes.
So there are various organizations that have supported you, right? One of them is the Rita Allen Foundation, and I understand recently, actually, they supported you in one of a project, right, where you were trying to highlight your members who are working at the intersection of climate and policy. I was wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks to the generous support of Rita Allen Foundation, we were able to think about how to highlight members in our community that were working on projects that had to do with climate and policy. We learned a lot. And so, as true scientists and experiments, many of our experiments, we spend all this time in grad school working on things, and not all of them come to fruition in the way that we had intended in our uh, original hypotheses. So what we set out to do was to have 10 community members write basically biographies, stories, contributions into that issue area. We were going to partner them with journalists and newspapers, and really set out to highlight how scientists contribute to climate change. It didn't work out as well as we had anticipated, in large part because writing for journalists stylistically is very hard and very different than the way that we write in academic papers. So one of the things that we learned and that we're moving forward, and why it's so important to think about how we write to different stakeholders and how we write in different forms, is we would partner with, and we're growing our collaborations with actual journalists who come from that background, that know how to do sort of like the upside down triangle of like catching people that really like hook, and then more generally after that. And so we were very thankful for the generous support of Rita Allen, because it got us to a point where we knew how to move forward and train our members on writing for journalistic outlets, and having those collaborations with journalists and with news outlets to really contribute to the greater population. And I know that this is such an important aspect. My home state is California, and California is the first state, I believe, to pass really a safety net contributions to local journalism. And my policy background is a little bit helping California Black media really make sure that the voices of Black Americans, Black Californians are understood. And so I really think that this collaboration and our future work on making sure that scientists contribute to journalists to get the impact to the communities is quite essential. So I was very thankful we had the opportunity to start that project, and intend to continue it in different forms and fashions as NSPN grows and expands.
And as you said, it's an experiment, right? That you learned a couple of things. You had one hypothesis going in, and actually ended up figuring out, oh, we need to do X, Y, and Z versus that direction. So it sounded like some trainings, right, were created or will be created around this, right? So that you can train your members to be able to write these pieces that then can go on to all these partnerships, right, that you've created with media organization. So is that the plan right now? So develop courses and then be able to provide like this outlet, right, for your members?
Yes. So we learned that we need a foundation of how to write for outlets. And we are opening up a writing course specifically to thinking about op-eds, commentaries, and that will have a hands-on component that will really anchor our ability to broaden that up for the rest of the group.
I see. And I wonder though, someone might be asking, why can't members go? Because there are writing courses out there for this as well, right? They do exist out in the world. Why reinvent the wheel internally, I guess? Or are you doing that? Are you doing it that way? Are you providing access for members to go outside, or are you building it in-house?
So a little bit of both. So we are bringing it in-house, and we have a course instructor in a style that's NSPN style, that has hands-on and practical. It also expands your ability to grow your cohort and your networking with us. But it is not starting from scratch. So we stand on the shoulders of giants, and there are many training programs There are schools that provide it too, but not everyone has access to their school's extension programs. They may not be at the right time for you. And so this is just one of the multitude of opportunities that you can take to expand your knowledge, skills, and abilities in writing, particularly for a writing audience or a journalistic audience. Yes.
Yeah. And for the members, who do you envision participating in these? The faculty or the postdoc graduate students?
So this one, we are thinking about how to serve our mid-career or late career folks and have a different type of faculty training in mind coming up in 2025, more for legislative communication specifically. This is more for late graduate students, early postdocs, or those who really feel like they don't have as good a foundation or intro into that writing for stakeholders.
Yeah.
So it could also be a faculty member, but we're thinking that our population is primarily that early career stage.
Yeah, and we keep saying membership. So can you tell us about the membership process here? I imagine there's a faculty listening to this, right? To graduate students, postdocs, and they're going to go, how do I become an NSPN member?
Yeah, so to become an NSPN member, you go to our website and you fill out a profile. So we're looking to grow our community of people that are science policy enthusiasts as well as scientists. So anyone in the STEM field that has an interest in policy, and also those who aren't in the science field but have an interest in science policy. It's a free membership. We include everyone. You just fill out that profile. You get on our mailing list. We open up opportunities. You have, by joining NSPN and becoming a member, you have early bird access to our symposium and in-person events, as well as we're growing, we have some opportunities with elected officials that would be exclusive to those who are signed up in our community specifically. And it's really an opportunity to join a collaborative community and find others that you may be working with in the future. Another benefit to join our community is you have opportunities to collaborate with sort of ready-made projects, things that you can take action on now. And so we have initiatives like Science on the Ballot, where we've curated questions, particularly for your states, that you can go out if you have interest and ask your candidates in your area the science questions that are pressing and on your mind. So you can contribute to that. And that really takes being a part of the NSPN community to get access to those and to be sort of have these curated opportunities where you don't have to go and invent it up yourself or get a group of friends to do it. You have a ready set group of community members with similar backgrounds and interests to you. So join the NSPN community. You can go to scipolnetwork.org, our website, to find out more.
Yeah, and this idea of not having to start from scratch, right? You're building partnerships, right? And another partnership that we haven't talked about is the Research America one, right? Because I think several of your members have been micro grantees, right, in the past. So I think that partnership, that for those who are listening, organizations such as NSPN provide this launching point, if you will, right? That then enable members, right, to realize, hey, I can participate in this landscape more broadly. Tepring, I wish that we can just keep talking, and that tells me that we need to have you back. That's for sure. And I tell all my guests this is always a setup, okay?
It's an initial conversation. We're just starting.
Initial conversation, and we've covered so much territory, and yet still lots more to cover. So you're 6 months in. What is your vision for the NSPN?
I envision NSPN to be a global leader in connecting people with meaningful opportunities and contributions in the science policy landscape. And that incorporates like-minded organizations like Research America, sponsorship opportunities, foundations like the Gordon Betty Moore Foundation, like the Rita Allen Foundation, Sloan Foundation, et cetera. Thank you so much for the generous support already. They're part of our ecosystem, and individuals that are going on to do amazing things. So not only did they start out talking about their ideas, getting a little bit of training, having some hands-on practical experiences, I just see that growing greater and more impactful every day. And so in 5 years from now, this is going to, you asked about demographics, we're going to have a diverse and robust ecosystem of partners and contributors that are really making a difference in science policy that affect my life, your life, and everyone on our planet's life.
Wow. And food for thought experiment, you have a $200,000 unrestricted grant, right? Imagine this for a second, Tepring, right?
Yes.
What would you do first?
What would I do first? Well, we are fundraising for that right now. So that is a very good question. So what we're developing is we have states have science training programs, and they're a year-long program, but they're very selective and very few members can take advantage of it. So we are imagining a virtual training platform that can be implemented nationwide. And we would have multiple fellows in different types of tracks, depending on what they want to do. And they would be learning leadership skills in for-profit and nonprofit arenas, as well as government. And we would be training the next generation to not only be active participants and taking small actions, but they would be leaders in the science policy realm. And so that's what I would do if I were generously gifted $200,000 or $250,000.
Well, all that says watch this space. Watch this space. Now, we didn't talk about so much also funding, getting deeper into there about how you guys are structuring and hoping to expand that. You mentioned fundraising, evaluation. We did a little bit about it, but that's something that I think in the future we can have deeper discussions about Tepring as well, and your partnerships, right? We explored a few there with the Rita Allen, but I know you have many others that you're developing. I imagine one with the JSPG, for example, right? With all these writings, policy pieces, that's like a natural home I can envision being, right? So much to discover, so much to talk about. But I wanted to just leave that as a teaser for those who are listening, and also for you to come back, because we want to explore. Because what we try to do here in our program and the whole network is to understand what the ecosystem, how it's changing, because things are changing so quickly.
It is.
And we want to be able to capture it. And what better way than talking to the people on the ground directly? So I really appreciate taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Happy to come back. Thank you so much.